Hey everybody, this is Justin K. Prim. I had several people over the last year message me about how they should set up their studio for cutting, and specifically asking about how to properly set up the Sri Lankan Sterling handpiece machine for the right height, for comfort. And so I just wanted to share today with you guys my studio and just show you a little bit about how I've set mine up and how I've placed everything to be comfortable, to be easy, and to be quick. So let's check it out. Okay, so here is the overview of my studio setup. So as you can see, I'm utilizing two different desks, one for the machine and one for all my accessories, and then I've got another shelf sitting above my machine that I use for my computer, for doing diagrams and webinars and streaming and all that stuff. So the main area here is the cutting desk, of course. Now, this machine is sitting on top of an IKEA coffee table. I'm going to pop up a picture of the desk with the IKEA code so you guys can find this. I know this one's available in America and the UK because I've had students purchase this in different countries before, but it's pretty much ideal. Now, one thing to note, I've got my machine sitting on top of these 2x4 pieces of wood because for me, that small difference was the difference between being comfortable and not being comfortable on the desk, and I needed the machine to just be a little bit higher. So as we can see here, I've got my machine set up on the corner of the desk. So as I sit, I'm straddling the desk with one leg on each side of the corner of the table so I can easily and comfortably hold the handpiece without getting fatigued towards the end of the day. Now you can see here on the right, I've got a saw that I can use to cut bigger pieces into smaller pieces to get ready for faceting. And I also have a micromotor Dremel handpiece that I can use for carvings. Now above the machine I have my computer set up. Now I have this up here for two reasons. One, as you can see, I've got the software running right now, Cut Studio, so I can actually sit here and design stones in the process of cutting them. I'm also using this station to do streaming live cutting, so I needed two monitors to be able to run the streaming software and see everything. Now for lighting, I have two different setups. I've got my overhead LED light projecting the light right where I'm looking, but I also have an overhead fluorescent light above this picture. So sweeping from side to side, you can see I've got my cutting desk, I've got my wastewater tank, which is basically just a water bucket for a water dispenser. I've got my garbage can for all of my waste paper from polishing. The magnifying glass on the gooseneck, I just use that for webinars, so I don't actually use that for day-to-day cutting. But then on this desk on the left, which is quite an important desk, I have all my accessories. So you can see here, everything that I need for faceting is right at arm's length. So if I've got my handpiece in my right hand, I can easily lean over to my desk on the left and pick up something like a gauge. So first things first, of course, I've got my handpiece, and of course I have my dops in different sizes. The next station on my desk is my dopping station. So I keep this on a cutting board so that I don't get wax and glue all over my desk, and it's easy to clean the cutting board off. So I've got a couple different types of tweezers so that I can hold the stone and I can hold the hot dop. I've got my lighter for lighting my lamp, I've got my glue, I've got a couple different kinds of waxes. Here I've got calipers, so these are for calibrating stones if I have to do. The calipers are super useful and I really like the digital ones. So next I've got my tool station. So here I've got, this is actually a hand cream that I sometimes use to mix the diamond powder with. I've got some adapters for the different laps that I use that have different holes, and also washers, because sometimes on top of the lap I need to put the washer to tighten the nut. Of course I've got my 10x triplet loop, always very important. This is just for locking and unlocking the laps. I've got my blue alcohol for cleaning the stone and sometimes cleaning the lap. I've got my kerosene that I also use to clean the lap if I need to do a deep cleaning. Acetone for cleaning my stones. I've got this bent saw blade, so I use this to rough up my lap, especially on the copper lap, before I put the diamond powder on. Another set of calipers for checking sizes, a few pieces of rough synthetic corundum that I use just to smooth out the lap after I've dressed it with the diamond powder. This handled piece of abrasive is also used for smoothing out the lap. This is something that a friend gave to me. Now here we've got another loop. When you look through this loop, there is a gauge inside so that you can exactly measure your facets. This is especially important when you're doing something like an emerald cut where you need to have all four corners be the exact same size. Here I've got a few Allen wrenches for different parts of the machine. I've got a small cup for water that I use when I'm doing oxide so I can dip my finger in there. And then I've got my tin oxide. In this station against the wall I have my extra supplies. So this is my incense burner because I like to get, special vibes going on before I cut my stones, and the lighter for the incense. That's the incense. I've got some different loose diamond powders. Some of them are synthetic. This one's a natural diamond powder. In here I have extra index gears. I've got extra little boxes for mixing powders. I've got cerium oxide sticks. I've got dressing sticks to clean my centered laps. I've got some gear loose dia sticks here that I don't use so much anymore, but they're there in case I need them. And then over on this side, I've got all kinds of other stuff that I rarely ever use. I've got some extra diamond slurry syringes that someone gave me, more incense, more diamond powder, several different sizes of diamond powder, an extra blade for cleaning and scoring the lap, extra super glue that I don't use, and then some different kinds of oils that I use to mix the diamond powders with. And then underneath here I have more of these gear loose oxide crayons like cerium oxide and tin oxide and chromium oxide. And then here I've got my collection of laps. I have these organized in sequences. This is just for my own benefit, but basically this is a 600 grit copper cutting lap that's embedded with 600 grit powder. If I use this one, I jump to my copper that is embedded with 05 and 01. So that's one series that I play with sometimes. My next series, so I've got my 240 grit, my 600 grit that I use for doing girdles, a 600 centered, and then I also have a 1200 center that's on my machine right now. That's my main series that I like to use for pretty much everything. And then here I've got various polishing laps. So I've got a pewter lap with oxide, I've got a bat lap with diamond, I've got a lead lap, I've got a tin lead lap, and then over here are the specialty laps. So, well, this one's just a normal copper lap. This is a dominatrix lap that I've got oxides on the inside and diamonds on the outside. I've got a greenway lap that I use sometimes, and then I've also got a creamway lap that I use on special occasions. And mostly I just stick to the bat lap and the copper lap and the lead lap. And between those three I can pretty much get everything done. Now above the cutting station next to the computer I keep my little containers of diamond powder, and I've got them labeled so I know what they are. Next to the cutting machine I keep my notebook where I write down my designs as I go, along with my paper towels for wiping off the stone. And then underneath of here, it's just a little protector for my small keyboard so that when I'm doing my webinars and stuff with cutting, it doesn't get any slurry onto the keyboard. Now, one thing to keep in mind while you're working, and especially while you're setting up your station or your studio, you'll notice here I've got this screen that separates the other half of the room, and you can see that there are all kinds of black stripes from spraying from the cutting of the girdles. So you can see that whenever I'm sitting here, I like to keep my chair so that my legs are straight, so my hips aren't above my knees. And then since I have the table exactly where I want it to be, whenever I'm cutting here, everything is very comfortable. I don't have, I've got a nice straight arm. I don't have my arm up like this. I don't have my hand, bent down like this because the table's too high. And then whenever I want to come up and check my stone with the loop, the light is right where I need it to be. And I can just come down and keep cutting. So you can see once I really get scooted in here, I've got my legs really straddling the table here. The machine is it's right here, you know, it's really close. I don't want it to be far away. I don't want it to be in some strange direction. And, you know, I can cut here all day. And if you keep the light in the right place, it helps you keep good posture. So you really want to keep it, for me, I want to keep it right about in my forehead area so that when I come up here and look, it's really naturally right in the right spot. And then I come back down, cut, come up. Everything's really easy. I'm using an office chair, as you can see, mesh back so I don't get too hot, and it can go up and down, so if I need to raise or lower my height to be more comfortable. This is just to give you guys an idea about my setup, and hopefully that will give you some ideas about how you want to set up your studio or maybe make modifications to your studio. So let me know what you think, and if you got some tips from your setup, I'd love to hear them. So let me know in the comments or in a message or something like that. Happy cuttings. Thanks.